So my name's Sarah Aldersley. I'm a practice leader in our corporate team here. So we have a group of lawyers working on anything really that a startup or larger company would need. So all the way down to things like company incorporations when someone's first starting out, up to setting up an ESOP if they've got employees coming on board they want to incentivise, doing capital raisings, whether that's acting for the company or for the investor, and anything else general really, so things like transferring shares, reorganising the company, buying up other businesses, things like that. So yeah, just really broad corporate work that we do here. We've also got a heap of other departments, so commercial, disputes, property, so we are a full service law firm, but yeah, I'm in the corporate team mainly working on cap raising. So I'd say we generally work for startup just because that's kind of our niche and what we're good at. We do have a host of enterprise clients, we call them, so large companies and SMEs, but yeah, we do a lot of work with startups just because we're kind of the size of law firm that I think we can work really well with them, and being a startup ourselves, we understand all the issues. Yeah, some of the most common concerns that we hear from founders when they're looking for capital are worried about losing control of their business. So they've obviously put a lot of time, money and effort into starting their company, and just a fear of getting an external investor on board, what that then means for them, like how much ownership do they have to give up, how much control of the board are they going to lose. But there are lots of things that you can do to protect against that. So things like having board seats for founders whilst they still hold shares, and having some critical decisions that can't be made unless the founders are on board with them. And then obviously the amount of equity that you have to give up in your business depends on the fund that's investing in you and your valuation. So yeah, that's probably the main concern. I keep saying got my dad in my head being like whenever I say he goes like. So I think the main tip I'd give is just really making sure you've got your house in order before you're approaching external investors. So things like if you've issued shares to friends and family, which often happens when you're starting out, have you done that properly? Is it documented? Have you updated ASIC? If somebody did a search in your company, could they see exactly who owns it at the moment? Another thing we always see is people promising employees or people that have worked for them some form of equity, but actually there's nothing in place setting out the terms of that, how much they're actually expecting to be given. So if you are going to do that, making sure there is a proper option plan in place if that's what you want to go with, and just making sure that it is clear who could potentially get a stake in your company. Other things are checking that your IP is owned in the entity that you're asking for investment in. So if you've been starting up on your own, you've come up with some ideas, you own that IP. It's not automatically held in the company when you incorporate. So you need to make sure you assign that over to the business, because that's a massive thing that investors will look for. If they're putting money in, they want to make sure there's value in that entity that they've got rights over. So a further thing is making sure that you actually know who owns the shares in your company. So you often hear people referring to, a trust owns shares in my company, but actually legally the trust doesn't own shares, it's the trustee. So finding out actually all the details from your shareholders is really important, just to make sure that you don't have a cap table that's half complete. So a key thing that often gets overlooked when you're setting up your company is how many shares you're going to issue to yourself. Because often it is the founder setting up, so the founder is the sole shareholder at that point, and they might give themselves, say, 100 shares, and they own all those shares. But actually, when the business grows and the company has more value attached to it, one share could end up being worth a lot of money. So when you're then wanting to give away equity, if you gave someone one share, you're giving them quite a lot. So at that point, you can sort that out by doing what's called a share split. So you swap every one share you hold for, say, 100 shares. So then each share value decreases. But if you haven't incorporated a company yet, it's something to think about at that point. Then you don't have to go through those steps later down the line. That is actually also something else people don't realise. You actually have to pay for your shares, even if it's like a cent. But yeah, people don't realise that you have to pay for your shares. So I had it the other day where someone set up with 1 million shares of $1 each, and then I said, well, I don't think you would have put $1 million into your company when you started. That's a lot. Did you mean to make them $1 each or have a million? and obviously they didn't. And from an accounting perspective, like there should be an entry in the books that says there's $1 million in the company, when they're obviously not going to put that in. So it's just things like that you think, oh, just ticking a box on a form, oh, I'll go with 1 million shares, I'll make them $1. But actually you need to pay that into the company. So yeah, you need to think about things like that when you're setting up. Yeah, definitely. So especially this year with COVID-19, a lot of VC funds have still raised this year. And we're definitely seeing appetite for those funds now being deployed into companies. So on both sides, whether that's the company getting investment or limited partners putting funds into the fund, yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment. So we're really excited to be partnering with Catapult and Dress for Success for the upcoming Challenge the Funder event. At this event we hope to be educating founders and entrepreneurs about how to raise capital and get investment into their businesses.